So this is a mini lecture on multivariate analyses. The slides for this lecture are included in the larger slide pack that you have for associations and predictions. But I wanted to do a separate voiceover because I thought that some of you might want to listen to this section multiple times, and pulling these slides out for a voiceover might make that easier for you. So we've been talking about associations between variables, and we focused mostly on bivariate relationships, relationships between two variables. But there are lots of times when we're interested in multivariate analysis, which looks at the relationships between multiple variables. Often again, we're focused on two variables, let's call them x and y, controlling for the influences of other variables. So multivariate analyses take many forms, but here is an example. This article by Berryman and her colleagues is available as optional reading for you in Moodle. And in this study, the authors examine associations between multiple variables. They're interested in whether social media use is associated with various mental health problems, controlling for the influences on mental health problems of age, gender, grades, and other factors. So this is how the results are reported. This is called a regression. There are a number of kinds of regression, and regression is a technique, a statistical technique used to look at multiple relationships between variables simultaneously. So you'll see lots of tables like this, and you'll talk about regression, ordinary regression and logistic regression in RIP2 next semester. But basically, the predictor variables are on the left. So under the column labeled variable, you see several predictors. Female gender is a dichotomous variable indicating whether the person is female or not. Age is a continuous variable measured in years. Grades in school, another continuous variable. And then we also have some results of self-reported instruments that measure friends in real life, parent-child conflict, histrionic personality or tendencies, the need to belong, social support, social desirability, social media import to the young person, involvement in vague booking, and hours online. You can ignore for now the triangles with the R2s next to them. We'll just move right along. So the outcomes are in columns, the column heads over numeric results. And so the first outcome is the BSI, or the Behavioral Severity Index, which is an overall measure of psychiatric symptoms. And the next outcome is social anxiety, and then you see empathy, and then loneliness, and then suicidality. And the cells, the numbers in the cells, contain what are called regression coefficients. These represent the influence of the predictor variable on that outcome. And they show whether it's positive or negative, and they show how strong the influence is. So you can interpret regression coefficients sort of like correlation coefficients. They have some of the same meaning, but again, here we're controlling for the influence of other variables. So looking at this table, we see, for example, that girls tend to score higher on empathy than boys in general. So you see under the column labeled empathy, female gender is associated with a positive, significant, statistically significant difference in empathy. On the other hand, you can see that hours online, down toward the bottom, is not related to any outcomes. The coefficients are all less than 0.1, so these are very small correlations. Okay, so hours online does not contribute to symptom severity or any of the problems identified here. And we find that looking at the social media import, the importance of social media to the young person, that's not significantly related to any of the outcomes. But vague booking is. So vague booking is related to higher levels of loneliness and particularly higher levels of suicidality. So here's some cautionary notes. Let's notice that this is a cross-sectional study in which all of the data were collected at one point in time. And they're assessing whether social media use affects mental health, but they don't really have data on time order, which came first, the social media use or the mental health problem. And we could and should ask, isn't it possible that mental health issues affect social media use? Okay, that's all for now. Look forward to talking with you about this.